Hey there, everybody, and welcome back to Utility Sports. Today, we're doing a continuation of our first round mock draft. So if you haven't caught that already, go ahead and check it now. We did change just one little thing in there that you'll notice, but other than that, the whole mock is the same moving into the second round now. And Austin, now we find ourselves at pick 33 with the Jacksonville Jaguars on the board. Where could you see them going after what they took in the first round at QB and tackle?
Yeah, so obviously they went to the well twice with the offensive positions. I very well think that it's possible that they could look at the cornerback spot if you want to highlight over the corners and take a look at them holistically here. Asante Samuel Jr. could be a pick, Tyson Campbell, but ultimately they do need to look for a replacement at tight end. Obviously, Tyler Eifert will be in the last year of his deal. James O'Shaughnessy is in the final year of his deal, so he is a free agent this offseason. So Pat Freiermuth will be the selection. Obviously, I'm going to have them come back and take some defense in the second round with their second round pick. But for the time being, I think obviously one of the better players available, Pat Freiermuth, will be the pick for Jacksonville.
Yeah, right. With how the board's kind of fallen in our mock draft here, you see kind of an abundance of corners that are probably going to be available a little bit later here on in the second round. Grabbing Freiermuth here, you're getting the best tight end available easily. Obviously, Brevin Jordan could be a solid tight end as well, but Freiermuth to Jacksonville makes a lot of sense, really helping out Trevor Lawrence or whoever that QB will be for them. Now at 34, we have the New York Jets. Obviously, you see there we went quarterback and cornerback. Quite a few other needs, though. That quarterback we went with was Justin Fields. Does that play into the decision here on who you're mocking to the New York Jets?
Yeah, there's really two that I'm really close between, and they're both offensive players, Najee Harris and Terrace Marshall, possibly Chris Olave. I think a lot of those guys actually play into the selection, but since you have Justin Fields at the quarterback position, you are going to want him to succeed. There's already Denzel Mims in place. There's Jamison Crowder. You have to have another weapon, though. Terrace Marshall will provide a really, really nice receiver. Obviously, I think that Terrace Marshall is one of the best red zone threats as well in this entire class. He has a knack for reaching the end zone, scoring. So at that point, I think Terrace Marshall would be a really good pick. He's definitely one of the more underrated prospects in this entire class. Very possible when it's all said and done, he is a top 20 prospect when we look back on this draft class. I think that's a steal at 34 for the New York Jets.
Yeah, definitely. The Jets are coming in, getting their quarterback, improving on the outside, something they badly need to do. That cornerback play this year has been brutal. Wide receiver play has not been great. Obviously, Denzel Mims missed quite a bit of time. But now you're putting together a pretty good receiving trio of Crowder, Marshall Jr., and Mims, obviously. And the Jets are looking a lot better moving into 2021. Now we have the Miami Dolphins with their third pick in the top 35. Pretty incredible here that all these teams in the top three of the second round all have 3 picks now at this point. Where could you see Miami going based on what we've had them go with at this point of the mock?
Yeah, so obviously we've had them go with tackle and linebacker, but at this point, I think it makes sense to look at the running back position or wide receivers, another possibility. But I do think that they should go with arguably the best player on the board in Najee Harris. Obviously, they want to provide, him and Myles Gaskin could be a really nice duo for Miami, but I think Najee Harris adds a whole nother element to that offense. He's going to be an absolute bruiser for the Dolphins. He's going to be 1,000-yard back for sure once he gets to the league, pretty much. And I like that selection for Miami. Take a little pressure off of Tua. You can hand the ball off a ton with Najee Harris. He's a workhorse.
Yeah, definitely. You have that Alabama QB, come back, get that Alabama running back, Najee Harris, now coming off the board to the Miami Dolphins. I really love that fit. Gives them a physical runner, like you had mentioned, something that Miami badly needs. And I fully expect them to be a playoff team next season with the assets that they've accrued in this draft. Now, jumping into pick 36, we have the Atlanta Falcons, a team that, their needs are kind of obvious. They need an edge, they needed a linebacker. We did take care of that linebacker for them with pick 4. Is edge the spot for them at 36?
Yeah, so now that we bring up the edge spot, that is something that is a big concern. It's really hard because Alex Mack is in the final year of his deal. I think that they would possibly bring him back. We have to go edge here. That is probably their most desperate need. After looking at it, Hamilcar Rashid will be the pick from Oregon State. I just think that he's a guy that has been flying up boards. Obviously, at the start of the year, he was not on anybody's radar to really be a second-round pick. This early, he was a good prospect going in, but, he's really increased his stock once again. I like that selection for Atlanta. They have to get some edge help.
Yeah, the Oregon State product flies up the board here. It goes 36 to the Atlanta Falcons. And they do badly need to address that edge spot. They've tried to do it in the past with players like Tag McKinley, Vic Beasley. None of those have really worked out. Hopefully, Hamilcar Rashed does bring some stability to that edge position for the Atlanta Falcons. Now, before we jump into the other pick, I just want to remind all of our viewers, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Check our socials out in the description. We'd definitely love to have you guys follow us there on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. And now jumping into pick 37, Austin, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. Obviously, we're playing quite well with Joe Burrow before he ultimately tore his ACL. Hope he recovers well. We did not have them grab an offensive tackle with how the board fell in the first round. Is offensive tackle the spot they go now?
Yep, Liam Eichenberg. That's the obvious and clear selection for me. For Cincinnati, you have to get a tackle with your pick. Obviously, the offensive line does need some work. Jonah Williams is already a nice piece that's in place, but you have to get another tackle. Bobby Hart just not getting it done at that right tackle spot. So Eichenberg will be the selection. You can decide what you want to do, who goes to, what side, if you want to move Jonah to the right tackle spot or, have him at the left tackle spot. And it really all depends on, who's more comfortable where at that point. I love the Eichenberg selection to Cincinnati.
Right. Eichenberg comes in. He could be a first-round prospect. It's very possible that he could go in the back end of the first round out of Notre Dame. They had a really phenomenal season this year at Notre Dame, and they get him here at 37. That's a very good value pick, in my opinion, and really fills a huge need on that roster. Jumping into 38 now, we have the tanking Philadelphia Eagles. Obviously, Week 17 was kind of a disaster week around the NFL based on their performance, what Doug Peterson kind of did there. But it did net them a little bit higher of a selection losing that game. What do you think the Eagles could address here at 38?
I think the Eagles could really look at the linebacker position as one of their biggest positional needs. I think you really want to add more speed to that defense. Dylan Moses really does provide that to you. He's an athletic freak, and I think that Philadelphia could be benefited by just adding another athlete to that defense. I think linebackers definitely their biggest need for sure going into this second round, and thankfully they don't have to reach on a Dylan Moses because this is kind of right around where his value lies.
Right, definitely. You're getting a playmaker on that defense, someone who's going to provide speed into that middle of the defense, something that's badly needed there in Philadelphia. Obviously, that D-line is really filled out with a lot of good players, but getting a guy behind them would really help service them long-term. Jumping to 39 now, we have the Detroit Lions. We had them go with a linebacker in the first round, a really good linebacker at that. Now, in the second round, where could we see them going? Obviously, offense, there's quite a few questions there. It kind of revolves around who comes in as GM and head coach there. What do you think for the Detroit Lions at this point?
Obviously, we had them go with Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah with their first-round pick. Now I think they're going to come back in the second round and take a dynamic playmaker, Kadarius Toney. At this point, we know that Detroit is going to be looking at wide receiver because either Marvin Jones or Kenny Golladay, they might be gone this offseason. Both of them could be gone. One could be back. Both could be back. Not exactly sure because obviously we haven't hit that point in free agency. So Kadarius Toney would be the selection under the assumption at least one of them is gone. He's a dynamic playmaker that, whoever the next quarterback for the Lions is, or if it just continues to be Matt Stafford, it really works in their favor because Kadarius Toney is super explosive with the ball in his hands. And to be quite honest, he's one of the best top-tier playmakers in this entire class.
Right, Matthew Stafford's getting a weapon here. And I just want to say Matt Stafford's not the issue there in Detroit. The team has so many different flaws. Defensively, they need a lot of players. Owusu-Koramoah is going to help some of that. And now Toney offensively is going to give them another weapon, a little bit of versatility on that offensive side of the ball. They need a lot of help around Stafford. I think Stafford's still going to be really serviceable for a few years yet. Detroit's going to try and make the most of his career grabbing Toney at 39. Now into 40, we had a team that did roll the dice on a QB in the first round in the Carolina Panthers. A few needs on that defense, though. Very young defense, kind of underperformed this year a little bit based on what many could have thought they could have done. Where do you see the Panthers going at pick 40?
I think for Carolina, you have to look at the linebacker position. Obviously, they want to continue to build up that defense, and that was kind of a point of emphasis for Matt Rule going into last year's draft. And now this year's draft, you want to grab defense, especially at the linebacker spot. Nick Bolton will be the pick out of Missouri. I'm really excited about Nick Bolton in that system. I think that he is going to do very well. But for Carolina, you have to really ensure that you continue to build up on what you did last year with the Derek Brown pick, the Jeremy Chin pick. Just continue to build up that second level of your defense. Nick Bolton is a phenomenal fit.
Right. Chin and Brown up the middle are very strong. Getting a linebacker in between the two of them is a must for the Carolina Panthers. Really strengthen the defense up through the middle. Also could look at them going cornerback a little bit later on in the draft. That is something to monitor. if we ever do a Carolina Panthers team mock draft. Now, jumping into 41, we have the Denver Broncos. Obviously, John Elway stepped down, kind of a surprising move there. They have a GM vacancy now at this point in Denver. It's going to be hard to kind of mock where they're going because Drew Lock obviously is now not the guy of whoever the new GM is going to be. Quarterback could be on the table, probably not at this point with how the board's fallen, but where could you see them going at 41 now?
Yeah, I think once again we will go back to that linebacker spot. I think that's a place that they could use a little bit of depth. And Jabril Cox is one of my favorite prospects from LSU. He's the NDSU transfer. Came in this year, did a phenomenal job on an LSU defense that was pretty atrocious, led by Bull Pelini all year long. But, I mean, he was one of the constant factors for that defense, consistent tackler, decent in coverage. I mean, this guy all around could be a nice fit in Denver. I think that obviously you have to keep improving that linebacking core as well. And I think they're pretty serviceable on the offensive line. They could possibly look at offensive tackle, but at that point, I think Jabril Cox would be a bigger need to address at pick 41.
Right, Cox goes off the board here, 41 to the Denver Broncos. Looking back at some of the better Denver Broncos teams, they've had good linebacker play, whether that be Danny Trevathan, Brandon Marshall, and a wide variety of other talents in that defense. Jabril Cox hopefully brings them back to that place for Denver Broncos fans. At 42, we have the Dallas Cowboys, a team that we had addressed cornerback in the first round. Offensive tackle could be a place they're looking. There is a guy in state still available on the board. Is Samuel Cosmi the pick at 42?
I think that they do definitely look long and hard at a Samuel Cosmi, but we actually are not going to go at the tackle position. We're having them go at the safety position because of the Xavier Woods contract situation. Trayvon Merrick is going to be the pick. They once again get to stay in state, though, with the selection from TCU. I think, he's a very, very solid tackler. He's decent in coverage, not super great, but he's serviceable in coverage. But, I mean, he's just going to be a strong tackler for that Dallas defense. And at this point, they got to keep improving the secondary, right? We've made some moves to fix the secondary at this point. Obviously, we had Farley in the first. Now we come back with Trayvon Merrick. I really like the pairing of those two of these draft picks.
Right. Dallas is going to have a really young secondary for years to come, obviously, taking Trayvon Diggs last year, coming back with two defensive players in the secondary this year in our mocks. But Merrick is a really nice selection. Staying in state is something I could really see the Cowboys doing as well. It's a lot easier to scout those guys. You don't have to go as far to find them. And Merrick coming to the Dallas Cowboys at 42 is a wonderful pick for Dallas. Now, an in-division rival, the New York Giants, are on the clock. We had them take a wide receiver in the first round. Now I think for Joe Judge, it's going to be about addressing some of that defense more than likely. Is that where you see them going at this point?
Yeah. So, I mean, it lists Edge as a top-tier team need, but I think that if they're able to re-sign Leonard Williams long-term, I think that's not as big of a concern. I think linebacker is more of a concern at this point, or corner. Either one. Obviously, Bradbury's been great for the Giants, but I think that this one's a little tougher to nail out. We look at that corner spot. I could see them definitely going in this direction. Let's have them go Asante Samuel Jr. from Florida State. I think he fits in nicely with the Giants. Obviously, they need a little more depth in that corner room as a whole. I really considered linebacker here, but I see corner as a bigger need likely. I think it's close, though.
Right, definitely. And as we move forward, we have another team here at 44 with a huge cornerback need in the San Francisco 49ers. Richard Sherman earlier in the year said it's not likely he will be back with the 49ers next year. Jason Barrett's been very injured throughout his career. They really need a cornerback. Is this where you see the San Francisco 49ers going, or do you see them addressing interior offensive line?
Yeah, so I definitely consider both positions for sure. Interior offensive line is definitely a need, but we do have to go and address the corner. Tyson Campbell is going to be the pick from Georgia. I really like him. But looking at the San Francisco Giants as a whole, San Francisco 49ers as a whole, I think that corner, obviously with Richard Sherman being out the door, there's not a ton of bodies that, are going to be serviceable for them at that point. Tyson Campbell from Georgia will be a good pick. Second Georgia corner off the board. Obviously Eric Stokes went, and now Tyson Campbell. So pretty impressive from the Georgia program to produce two top 44 corners at this point.
Right. You see two Georgia Bulldog corners going off the board in the top 44 picks, something that not a lot of programs can really say they've ever had happen. Tyson Campbell's going to be a great fit in San Francisco, gives you another body there. I think that's really the biggest thing. You can't go into that division against the Seattle Seahawks, for example, with only one serviceable corner, DK Metcalf. Tyler Lockett would eat you alive. You need to have cornerback play. Tyson Campbell's going to give them that there. And obviously, they could come back later, grab an interior offensive lineman to maybe upgrade over Daniel Brunskill long term. At 45 now, you have the Los Angeles Chargers, another team that has cornerback listed as a need. I don't really think that's the direction that they'll go, though. We did have them address tackle. Interior offensive line could be a place for them, as well as edge. Is there a specific spot you see them going here at 45?
Yeah, I really am considering Creed Humphrey with the selection, but we also have to look at the edge spot and what that has available because of the Ingram contract situation. Jason Wade is going to be the pick likely for me here, just because you have to have a guy that's opposite of Joey Bosa that can get after the quarterback at that point. With Ingram being out, I just don't see there being a pathway where they can re-sign him for a reasonable deal. There's going to be a hot demand for a guy like Melvin Ingram on the open market. So at this point, I think Jason Wade would be the selection out of Penn State. They just have to ensure they get another pass rusher, and hopefully, the interior of their offensive line can wait, and hopefully somebody falls to them with their next pick.
Right, definitely. You can see the Chargers also be aggressive in a trade-up when the real draft comes. That's something that Tom Telesco has done in the past, did that last year to get Kenneth Murray at the linebacker position. Could be moving back into the second round to grab Josh Myers possibly, or Creed Humphrey. Those two are available yet. And also just for the Chargers' sake, they're going to be sticking in the trenches here, whether that be D-line or offensive line. I think that's kind of the obvious selection based on how the first round went for them in our mock. Now at 46, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, this pick comes from the Minnesota Vikings from the Yannick Ngakoue deal. We've had them address their top three needs here with quarterback, tight end, and offensive tackle. Now I think the defensive side of the football is the main priority here. Safety, a really big need. Cornerback, a really big need. Which way do you see Jacksonville going at this point?
I think they definitely have to look at corner. I think they're going to have to wait on safety a little bit, but Paulson Adebo from Stanford will be the selection. At this point, we have to understand that there are going to be some other safeties that will be available if you go to the safety tab and take a look at them. Paris Ford, LeCount III, Javon Holland. There's going to be a couple of guys with their next pick that they can leverage at that point, and I feel like there's not a big drop-off, but you have to make sure you get Adebo because the drop-off is starting to become more and more at that corner spot. I feel a little more comfortable with the amount of safeties that are going to be there with their next selection in the third round. So Adebo would be the pick. They have a big need at corner currently.
Right. They grab Adebo based on what kind of the board could look like when it comes around to their next pick. And the other thing, too, to me, cornerback is a much more important position than safety. At corner, you need to have guys who can cover, who can match up one-on-one. Occasionally gives your defense a lot of versatility. Adebo is going to come in out of Stanford, give them some of that versatility with C.J. Henderson on the other side. I really like that pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Moving into 47, we have the New England Patriots, who took tight end Kyle Pitts in the first round. Where do you kind of think that they could go? I think interior defensive line is really the one that sticks out to you, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I continue to mock this over and over again. They have to get an interior defensive lineman at this point. Jordan Davis would be the obvious pick for me. I think he's the best interior defensive lineman that is currently available. And for New England, you have to ensure that you shore up the middle of your defense, right? They keep losing guys in free agency, guys like Danny Shelton on their way out, obviously. So at that point, they weren't able to really replace that this season. So, they're going to come back in this draft and they will go ahead and get a guy like Jordan Davis. And I think he's going to be a very solid contributor for the Patriots at that point.
Yeah, they've been really budgeting that nose tackle position for quite some time now there in New England, whether that have been Lawrence Guy, Danny Shelton, among others. And now going out getting Jordan Davis, you get an established defensive lineman who's going to anchor the middle of that defense on the defensive line, the defensive trenches there, and gives the New England Patriots, a real need addressed now at this point in the draft. Moving into pick 48, we have the Arizona Cardinals, and cornerback, another position that they could be looking at here. Patrick Peterson, is getting up there in age. Byron Murphy Jr., they did select a few years ago. Do you think cornerback is a viable selection for them? Or do you think that they're going to maybe put it into their offensive line?
Yeah, I think based off of value, if we were looking at this from the Arizona standpoint, Creed Humphrey's arguably the best player they should take based off of need. Obviously, there are some corners available, but at this point, I think Creed Humphrey offers some versatility at the center and the guard position. He can play both at the next level. And to me, for Arizona, protect Kyler Murray at that point and just take the better player available, the two positions that are, you really need at that point. Once again, I think they can get a corner of pretty much the same caliber that they could get right now in the third round because some of those, top tier guys have already gone. Obviously, corner is going to be a hot commodity during the draft. So Creed Humphrey here, you get a really good player at 48.
Right, you're really looking to add on more talent for this Arizona Cardinal team. Obviously, their offense could really use another run blocker, someone who can also help protect Kyler Murray. Creed Humphrey is going to be able to do both of those things for Arizona. At 49, we have the Las Vegas Raiders, and I think defense is going to be the answer here. Now, it just kind of depends on what position you want to go with. So many different needs on that defense. Linebacker, interior D-line, a guy like maybe Christian Barmore. Also, safety and corner are still needs for this team. Where could you see the Vegas Raiders going at this point?
To me, they're going interior defensive line. I think how you look at it, you have Hurst as one of your D tackles. I think you have to have another guy in the mix. Marvin Wilson is going to be the selection for them. He's definitely going to be able to stop the run, and that's something obviously the Raiders have had a little bit of issues with in the past and currently this year. But I like Marvin Wilson. I think he is going to be a good selection for them. Once again, I've talked about this a lot. He's a guy that has pretty good pedigree as a whole, but if you look at the start of this season, he was supposed to be a first-round guy. Obviously, he's dropped all the way down to 49. Very well could be a good steal at this point at pick 49 for the Raiders.
Yeah, we see the Raiders going out, grabbing Marvin Wilson, really focusing on improving that defensive line. Just hasn't really quite performed. Obviously, they spent some picks on it. Just hasn't gotten the job done. Now they're going to have a little bit of a rotation between some of their young talent, and it gives them more of an opportunity to get after the quarterback, stop the run, something that Las Vegas really badly needs to improve in. At 50 now, we have the fourth pick for the Miami Dolphins in this mock draft. We've had them address linebacker, offensive tackle, and running back at this point. I think wide receiver is probably the need that sticks out the most, but also the interior of that offensive line could really use some improvement as well. Which way do you kind of see them going with how the board's played out?
Yeah, very tough because Arizona had what would have been their number one guy likely on the board in Creed Humphrey because they would have been able to replace Ted Karras. But at this point, I think Chris Olave, who's an absolute burner, could be the selection here. I really like his ability to take the top off the defense. But at this point, I think you have to get another weapon for Tua. Obviously, they already have Devontae Parker in place. A couple other guys like Preston Williams are there at that point. But I think getting another receiver is the direction that Miami should go with their pick. The beautiful part of Miami's draft is they have a lot of different ways that they can go, and they don't have to be super picky on what they do in the order that they do it because they just have so many selections where they can afford to take some risks.
Right, definitely. And you could even be watching them possibly move up if they really, really like a guy and don't want to risk losing him. Olave going here at 50, though, makes all the sense in the world. They're really a big pivot point in this draft, like you mentioned. There's so many different directions they could go with their first pick, their second pick, their third pick that could alter how the board kind of falls, which would actually work out pretty well for them because if they started to run at a position, they'll be able to come back later with one of their other picks and grab something else that they really need. Olave fills one of those big needs there now for Miami at 50. Jumping into 51, we have the Washington football team grabbed a quarterback in the first round. Obviously, they've played very well this year, made the playoffs. Not very many people expected that, winning the NFC East. Where do you see them going here at 51? Offensive tackle is still on the board.
Yeah, so once again, this is all about value, and I think this is where they would go pretty much regardless. Samuel Cosmi is going to be the selection. Washington very well could actually go tackle in the first round, but I think that getting Samuel Cosmi here, great value. I don't think he's going to actually fall this far in the actual draft. I think once the combine and stuff takes place, I think he will be a possible first-round pick or very top of the second. But with how the board has fallen so far, he's came all the way down to 51. But Washington would consider themselves very lucky to see Samuel Cosmi here at their selection.
Right, Cosmi comes in, fills that Trent Williams hole, obviously, when they traded Williams away last year. And now Cosmi gets that left tackle position. He's going to protect whoever the long-term QB is there for Washington. And grabbing a tackle is something you're going to badly need in Washington. 52, another tackle-needy team, the Chicago Bears. We also had them go with quarterback in the first round. Is tackle running off the board yet again?
Yep, once again, Dylan Radins is going to be the selection from North Dakota State. I think at this point, Chicago, once again, they'd feel very happy about getting a tackle at this spot. I think even in the third round or fourth round, they're going to come back with interior offensive line. They have some holes on that O-line, and obviously this is going to be the draft that they have to fix it. Obviously, I think they're going to leverage a trade for a quarterback in the offseason, one of the veteran quarterbacks, or they are going to draft one. And it really affects their first-round pick because it's possible that they go tackle first, guard second round. It really depends on what they want to do. But at the quarterback spot, I think they will leverage a trade. I don't know if they're going to have to reach on a QB with their current selection in the first round.
Right, and now you see Radins going here. They do address that tackle need, and we move into another team with a really big tackle need, the Los Angeles Rams. Obviously, they're in kind of a tough spot. They don't have a ton of assets to really add talent to this roster with after trading for certain players like Jalen Ramsey and so on. Is tackle where you see the Rams going here at 53, or do you think that they're going to spend it on a defensive player?
Yeah, here's the run on tackles. I think they're actually going to go with a higher upside even than Alex Leatherwood. We're going to have you click on that tackle tab for me. And there's a guy that I really like, Daniel Faalele from the University of Minnesota. He has only played, a couple of years of actual college football. He's 6'9", 400. He could be an absolute stud at the NFL level with the right coaching. And I think Sean McVay and his staff do a really good job at developing players as a whole. I think Faalele would be a great pick here. Obviously, they could look the Leatherwood route, but a guy that's 6'9", 400 and that can move at least okay, it's really impressive. Hopefully, he's able to kind of keep up with the elite edges in the NFL, but he's one of those high upside picks, and all else fails, just kick him to guard because he would succeed at that position as well.
Right, looking at the Rams, maybe that's their route to overcoming some of the lack of selections that they have, is take high upside guys, maybe a little bit more of a risk there with Faalele, but high upside nonetheless at tackle. You could be getting a franchise tackle there with him at pick 53, really good value if that is the case. Now jumping into 54, we have a team we already had take a tackle at this point. There's a huge question mark at QB, but the class just doesn't really seem to have a lot of second round options, especially with how the board's fallen at this point. Where do you kind of see the Indianapolis Colts going? I think this is one of more of the places that are up in the air at this point.
Yeah, and we talk about the quarterback position. I think that's a trade market option as well. Sam Darnold, whoever it may be, Matt Stafford, Matt Ryan. But at this point, I think that they would look at the wide receiver position. T.Y. Hilton's deal's up. I don't know if they're super motivated to get a deal done on their end and kind of replace him with a similar player in Rondale Moore. I think, he's a smaller guy. He's kind of got that 5'9" frame, and he has the ability to actually play in the slot. He can do a lot of different things for you. Was at one time considered a for sure first-round pick. He's fallen a little bit, obviously, with this pick, but I think he's going to be a very solid target for whoever the next quarterback is. I think Phillip Rivers is done. They could give Jacob Eason a shot, possibly a guy they took out of Washington last year, or they'll leverage a trade in the QB market.
Right, definitely. Indianapolis is kind of a big question mark at that QB position, but they go out and get a guy who's going to help whoever that future QB is in Rondale Moore, pair him with Michael Pittman Jr., who they took in the second round last year. And now you've got a little bit of a duo going forward for Indianapolis at that wide receiver position. At pick 55, we have the Cleveland Browns, who've made the playoffs for the first time in a long time. Congratulations to the Cleveland Browns. Where could you see them going after they addressed edge in the first round of this mock draft?
I think they're going to look at linebacker, the 54th overall prospect, Cameron McGrone. I just see that Cleveland's going to keep addressing their defense. I think they're feeling pretty okay about how their offense is functioning. Obviously, Kevin Stefanski's done a really nice job, but I think they want to improve the linebacker spot with this pick. Obviously, we had them address the edge spot, which is a huge need, but I also think linebackers a big need for them as well. I love the McGrone pick here at 55.
Right, last year the Browns invested quite a bit into that offensive side of the football, went out, got Austin Hooper, paid for a lineman, drafted another lineman in Jedrick Wills, and now you see them coming back this year, grabbing a lot of defense, trying to balance out that team. Cameron McGrone's a great selection here to do so. Pick 56, we have the Tennessee Titans, a team that is built upon the run. Derrick Henry, obviously. That defense, though, does need a little bit of help. We had them go with edge in the first round. Is edge or is defense still going to be the continuation here in the second round, or is wide receiver based off Corey Davis's contract situation where they'll look?
Yeah, I think Amon-Ra St. Brown would be the pick because I think he's the perfect selection for them. He is a willing run blocker, and you don't see that a ton with some of these guys in the first and second round at the receiver position. But, I mean, he has the ability to be a very effective pass catcher, but he's also willing to block as well, which I think that's a big deal for Tennessee. Obviously, their offense is completely centered around Derrick Henry and his ability to run the football at this point. I love Amon-Ra St. Brown for Tennessee. I think this is a great pairing here at 56 for the Titans.
Yep, definitely. You bring in a run-blocking wide receiver, something that isn't very common, but definitely makes a lot of sense in Tennessee's offense. We'll have to monitor what happens with their offensive coordinator during the coaching search. But Amon-Ra St. Brown comes in, gives them a little bit of a red zone threat too as a receiver, something that they could definitely use moving forward. Now, if you're the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you're probably ecstatic here because there's a couple different options on the offensive line for you if that's really where you want to go, or there's an edge based on what will happen with Shaq Barrett. He obviously is expiring this year. Those are kind of the two ways that you could look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going. Which one do you prefer for them at 57?
For me, I like Josh Myers here at 57 because once again, he offers some versatility where he could play guard for you. He could play center. It really depends on what they want to do, but you have to, protect Tom Brady. Obviously, Josh Myers, another Ohio State offensive lineman. Wyatt Davis went in the first. Now, Josh Myers comes here in the second round. I really like this selection for Tampa. You have to keep Tom Brady upright as he continues to age.
Right, you're really looking at an improved trenches there for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, going with an interior defensive lineman, interior offensive lineman. Then in the second round, Myers is going to be a great selection there. Gives you some versatility on that offensive line as well. Now jumping into 58, we have the Baltimore Ravens, a team that might be looking at edge position. Obviously, Matthew Judon is in the final year of his deal as well. Could be on his way out the door. Do you see them going edge? Also, safety is a pretty big need for the Baltimore Ravens after Earl Thomas departed.
I think you nailed that completely in terms of where they have needs. Obviously, safety is a big one, edge is a big one, but Jalen Phillips I think would be the pick here from the University of Miami. Obviously, is a guy that got an opportunity because Gregory Rousseau opted out. So once again, a lot of props to Jalen Phillips. But I think for Baltimore in their draft history, they would opt to go edge over safety at this point, just because looking historically speaking, they'd love to fill up that front seven with really, really talented players. Jalen Phillips would add to that list.
Right, definitely gives them some long-term flexibility too with that edge position. A little bit more of an expensive position to fill than the safety spot is, and grabbing one in the draft gives you a little bit of leeway with what you're going to do with the salary cap management. Jalen Phillips going 58 here makes all the sense in the world. Now at 59, we have the first Seattle Seahawks pick of the draft. Obviously traded their first rounder to the New York Jets for Jamal Adams. Edge and tackle are kind of the two that jump out to me, but they seem to never really want to go with that tackle position to help out Russ. Is edge going to be where they look here?
Yeah, I think you provide an interesting argument. I can't go through this mock draft and not have them take a tackle. It's just, come on, Seattle, please give this guy a tackle. Alex Leatherwood is the pick. I hope they follow my advice on this one. I think this is where they would go too. I really do. I hope after some time here that they do decide to finally address their offensive line. For some reason, John Schneider just thinks he can, skim by with bare minimum at the O-line because of Russ's ability to escape the rush. But I just don't think that that's going to be viable to keep doing that. I think you have to put some stock into your offensive line, and Alex Leatherwood would be a really good pick here at 59.
Especially as Russ ages too. That's the thing you're looking at. You need to protect your aging quarterback. Obviously, he's not old, but at some point he will be. You need to have some insurance in place, keep him healthy, keep him upright. Alex Leatherwood would be the selection to do so. I hope the Seahawks do, as you suggested, and go offensive tackle. They've been badly needing that for years. Now, another team that could be really looking at the tackle spot, we had them grab a running back in the first round. Tackle is a big need here for the Pittsburgh Steelers. The board has kind of thinned out there a little bit, though. Do you still see them going that way, or do you have them addressing a different position?
I have them going interior defensive line. I think that's a spot that they are going to have to look, obviously. I think that there's two guys that stand out to me at this point. Christian Barmore is definitely a guy that you could consider at this spot. Also a guy like Tyler Shelvin could be another one. I'm going to have them go Barmore at this point. I think that Barmore kind of fits more of what they're looking to do. But Pittsburgh, they don't love just going one side of the ball continuously with their selections. I think they are going to spread it out. They'd love to make sure that they keep their defense up. Obviously, they address the offensive side of the ball at the first pick, come back with the interior defensive lineman with their second pick, a guy that I think is actually being undervalued in these rankings, and Christian Barmore.
Yeah, definitely. Barmore comes in, fills that nose tackle position for the Pittsburgh Steelers, something badly needed on Mike Tomlin's defense there. And now, jumping into 61, we have the New Orleans Saints. We had them take a cornerback. That was a big need for them. Linebacker could also be a big need. Surprisingly, Quan Alexander did get seriously injured this season. I kind of thought that they had filled that position long-term. Now with that injury, it looks like they are going to need to address that possibly. Is linebacker where you're looking, or are you even looking at the offensive side of the ball?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that they could consider. Obviously, if you want to pan to quarterback, just so everybody can see what's kind of available, I don't feel super great about what is available at that quarterback spot. I don't want to have them take a quarterback yet. Obviously, they don't have a long-term replacement for Drew Brees unless you do think Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill could be that long-term option. I think linebacker is more of a pressing need at this point. Chaz Surratt from North Carolina is my favorite prospect that is still available at this point. I like you had mentioned, I'm not exactly sure long-term if you feel super great about the linebacking situation. Obviously, with Quan Alexander injury, we're not sure about his future there in New Orleans. So I think you have to be prepared and get Surratt here at 61.
Right, you're looking at a much improved Saints defense. They need a linebacker next to Demario Davis. They go out, get one with Surratt. They needed a cornerback across from Marshawn Lattimore. They did that in the first round. They're really improved at two really big needs on that defense. Honestly, as long as Drew Brees is still around, that offense is going to be ticking. That offense is going to be fine. Grabbing defense here in the first two rounds is probably what the New Orleans Saints should do and probably what they will do. Now the Buffalo Bills at 62, also a need at linebacker. However, the boys kind of thinned out there a little bit as well. Offensive tackle could be a place that we look for the Bills as well. Is there a specific spot you want me to check for the Buffalo Bills?
For the Buffalo Bills, this is kind of an interesting position. I think linebacker is a place that they could definitely look at this point in the draft. We take a look at the linebacker spot. I don't feel super great about the prospects that are available at this point. I think a guy like Charles Snowden is a guy that they could look at this point. Let's look at the tackle spot again as well. Both positions have kind of thinned out, but I think Jackson Carman would be the selection. Obviously, the arguably the best player available between their bigger needs. So at that point, I think Jackson Carman out of Clemson is a good pick.
Yeah, Carman comes in, gives them the long-term option of that offensive tackle spot, a little bit more stability there to protect Josh Allen. Obviously, he's had a breakout season this year. Could be in the MVP conversation even, obviously the lower end of it. But Carman comes in, gives them a little bit of tackle flexibility, maybe kick him into guard if you have to. A really good asset there for the Buffalo Bills. Now at 63, we have the Green Bay Packers. We had them go outside on the defensive side of the ball at cornerback. Is wide receiver where they could look to go here in the second round to help out Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams?
Yeah, if you go ahead and go to that wide receiver spot, we can kind of take a look at what's available. Nico Collins, Seth Williams, Daz Newsome, really good prospects, as well as Tylan Wallace, a guy who I think is actually very undervalued in this draft. But I think Nico Collins is probably the best player available for them to take at that wide receiver spot. I think that Green Bay has to look at the wide receiver spot because there's just not enough consistency across the board. Obviously, Davante Adams is phenomenal, great wide receiver, but they have to continue to add more to that. They have a couple guys that they like Marcus Valdes-Scantling, obviously, and I think that Nico Collins fits in great with Green Bay.
Right, definitely. You get to address that wide receiver position, a really big need there in Green Bay. And now Kansas City here, last pick of the second round, they're probably pretty ecstatic with how the board's fallen. There's two really good options here and a really big need in the interior offensive line. Trey Smith out of Tennessee or Landon Dickerson out of Alabama. Which one do you see them going with if you have them taking that interior offensive line position?
Yeah, to me, they are going interior offensive line pretty much no matter what, if this is how the board had fallen to them. Trey Smith is the pick, a natural guard, a guy that will be able to step in right away and be a major contributor for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think he's a great pick here. If they were sitting at that selection, they would run that up to the stand because they want to protect Patrick Mahomes, and obviously Smith is a way to do that.
Right, you bring in Smith, give him a lot of different flexibility on that offensive line. You can kick him left guard, right guard, depending on what happens with Kalichi Osemele this year in free agency. That is going to be the storyline to watch for Kansas City. Also, Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, whether or not he comes back to football or continues to act as a medical professional. That's kind of the storylines for Kansas City at that offensive line position. Getting Trey Smith gives them a little bit of flexibility to monitor both of those situations. This has been our second round mock draft. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the video. If you did, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe. Let us know down in the comments who your favorite team is, who you want them to take in the NFL draft. And thank you guys again so much for watching. We really do appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys in the next video.